You're probably wondering what I'm pointing at. All right, well, that's just a portion of the sky. And according to our esteemed cosmologists and astrologists in the world, the night sky, or the sky around Earth, contains or reveals at least something to the effect of 2 trillion galaxies out there. 2 trillion galaxies. So the question that comes, the obvious question is, if there are 2 trillion galaxies, how many suns are there? How many planets? And logically, the most pessimistic equation would tell you that there has to be life on other worlds, and probably a lot of worlds like Earth, because even now, with Hubble 1 and 2, the deep space satellites that NASA launched, they've already discovered exoplanets that are within reach of Earth, given a little work on our technology, which have the same or similar atmospheric conditions and water. So, life. So here's my point as an author. I write thriller books. I have a crime novel series, and I write some other literary fiction. But I like to write speculative fiction because it gives one license to go beyond the, let's say, limitations of accepted reality. We live in a world right now where war and conflict and nuclear weapons, and this is all reality, but it certainly isn't the accepted reality. I mean, most of the world's population doesn't want war, doesn't want Putin's, doesn't want Russian invasions, doesn't want hate and division. Most of the world doesn't want that because most people are social. And we unfortunately are, amongst our ranks are roughly 2% sociopathic people in the world. It's quite a few when you factor in 9 billion souls on a planet, but still, it's still a minority. But that minority is very toxic. And it only takes a few of them, like Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong-un in North Korea. And those two gentlemen, they can start a world war because they have the means of doing it. So, given that reality, I like to extend the perspective from my readers so we go outside the box. Because every time the human race looks beyond the edges of the box, that's when we have advances. That's when we have cultural leaps. It's the Steve Jobs who said, I want to put a computer in everybody's home, and he develops technology that's changed our lives. And 25 years later, practically every 5-year-old and up has a cell phone, an iPad, or a computer. And that's because we have the capability of dreaming beyond the borders, or what we might say, the mediocrity, the confines of the reality that we're told is reality. Because reality is only reality because we make it reality. So I am of the perspective, I'm sure there are a lot of people like me, that it's time to focus our attention on the stars. Because out there are other cultures. No doubt they've visited us, but of course don't ask the US military, because they've been running an active campaign since 1947, when the Roswell incident happened, to cover up and discredit any UFO sightings. But that's not the subject of this particular talk. What I'm trying to make here, the point I'm trying to make here is that in my new book, which you can see here, which is called When Gods Roar, The Awakening, I present a different scenario. I present the concept of, like, okay, let's have an alien who comes from another galaxy, comes to Earth, and he's seeking refuge here. He wants asylum. He has conditions, though. He said when he lands, he wants to, he wants to give us all his technology and all this ancient knowledge that answers a lot of the questions about the universe, which has been suppressed in his world. He wants to give it all to us. The only problem is he has to find somebody who will listen to him and not just scoop him up and stick him on some military installation somewhere and dissect him and never let his existence become general knowledge. So he approaches the JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, specifically a gal by the name of Mia Chain, who heads up a particular project that JPL has created to find evidence of intelligent life in the universe. Okay, logical, go to somebody who's trying to prove his existence, and that's what he does. He tries to go in through that avenue to gain some credibility and not end up in the wrong hands. But of course, it goes wrong. The military moves in and it turns into a whole shitstorm. But the story that evolves from there is a very interesting one. It's very deep, philosophically profound, because the book not only goes into the political, the geopolitical and military platforms and the agendas that are going on to keep people generally ignorant of the fact that there are other cultures out there. It goes into the fact that that unless we deal with the current mental paradigm that seems to be dominating the world, that it's okay to have weapons of mass destruction, that war is just sort of a natural phenomena, that we're all basically animals and our visceral instincts are to fight and kill one another. And I mean, these are nice theories, and they certainly help to support the ongoing mediocrity, the military establishment and those who make a lot of money from that, sending people off to war to die for them. But it isn't the truth. We aren't animals. We aren't viscerally brutal and warlike. And what we are capable of is something so much higher. And that's what the book, When Gods Roar, The Awakening, is all about. It's really an attempt at telling a thriller story that that opens the door to a different idea, that we can be allies with these other cultures, and by allying with them, we can advance our culture, we can drop the whole war scenario, the whole, land grab, Putinism crap that's going on in our world, this general history of brutality that we have exhibited between one another. For what? For a planet that is one out of a trillion to the exponential of 10, we don't even know. There's so many of them out there. And so focusing on the correct thing, which is not how to survive on this one rock, but how do we get to the other planets? How do we hook up with all these races that are out there? They must be out there. The evidence is that there's overwhelming evidence of visitations to this planet, which have been just so calculatingly covered up. You could say, well, that can't be true, because obviously if our governments knew about it, we would know about it. Yeah, and our governments have built on the order of 15,000 nuclear weapons to destroy us, and have permitted 2 countries, particularly 3, Russia, China, and North Korea, to have those weapons. And now one of them, Putin in Russia, is holding the world hostage by declaring that he'll use nuclear weapons if anybody interferes with him. So you see, you can't depend on the governments to tell you the truth. The governments are self-protecting entities. They want to continue, they want to exist, and they're not all bad. But if they were really completely on board with transparency, we'd have certainly a different world today. And it wouldn't be about war, and it wouldn't be about trying to convince us that nuclear weapons is going to keep the peace, which it has not. Since 1945, there's been plenty of wars, and millions of people have died, and dictators have come and gone, and here we are again facing another one. So anyhow, When Gods Roar, I encourage you to read the book because it's not only going to give you an entertaining thrill ride, it's going to hopefully spark some ideas in your head about how, the next phase that humanity could move into. What's the next threshold that we could step over, not just technologically, but as humans, as a people, and as spiritual entities, whatever you want to say. So I encourage you to read the book. It's out. It's available everywhere now. And well, thanks for listening.